I'm really, really angry and sad and feel like crying.
I feel like if something bad is happening to people, then somehow that means if I want to be in solidarity with them, I also need to be suffering.
Welcome to a conversation between two friends.
This is Alice.
And I'm David.
And this is Truthfully Yours.
We are by no means experts or teachers, just speaking honestly within the bounds of friendship. If you found your way here, maybe there's something in that honesty meant for you too.
We invite you to lean in, and perhaps you'll recognize your own journey in ours.
In this conversation, recorded the day after the February 2026 bombing of an all-girls school in southeastern Iran, David and Alice wrestle with grief and rage, asking themselves, what can we actually do? When they sat down, 61 people were dead. As of March 4th, that number is 165, mostly students. This is Truthfully Yours. Now here's Alice and David.
It seems like with this administration, anytime there's a lot of attention being focused on the misbehavior of the current president, a country gets bombed.
I'm really struggling how to speak about it without getting political.
Right. I mean, you can get...
It is political.
It is political.
And it's not like I'm afraid to be political.
Right.
But I think that's not the point.
Right.
I think that the one thing that stood out for me was the bombing of the school and the death of
51
almost
girls.
60.
And many more injured. The death count could be higher. I haven't read today's news cycle.
I guess I do not feel adequate enough to talk about this because I just personally don't believe in war. I think of violence as a cycle. And the only way we can stop it from rolling on is to just remove yourself as a participant.
Which is not easy to do because it's lingering in your mind. You're thinking about it.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, I'm also really pissed.
Right.
I'm really, really angry and sad and feel like crying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of the angry, ugly, angry cry.
Right.
That kind of emotion.
So, you know, when I felt like this the first time as an adult that I can remember is when 9/11 happened.
Mm.
And when I woke up to 9/11, I was the coordinator of a women and children's mothering group.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, Abigail, my oldest, was probably maybe 3 months old.
Wow.
And I turned on the news and you just saw the bombing of the buildings and just how scared I felt and so unsafe all of a sudden. Because war can happen anywhere else, but within our own country, right?
Yeah.
And I felt really unsafe. And I just remember that feeling and all the feelings that came after that and how just the world got turned upside down. And what I've noticed, especially here in this country, is when it's not our own citizens being harmed, we tend not to focus as much attention as we should, as if it were like the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
When I woke up yesterday, I saw the news cycle and about the school.
Mm-hmm.
I had so many emotions going through my mind. First of all, not surprised, because the last couple of days I saw headlines saying, you know, different countries were telling people to get out of Iran, including China, which then when I saw that the Chinese government was telling their citizens to get out, I thought, oh, this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
You know, you wake up to that and just so many things go through your mind. Then once I saw the hotels in Dubai getting bombed,
Yeah.
and that's a very wealthy country, I thought, this is not going to bode well for us.
I think what we've done is just continue to create another generation and beyond of citizens of a country that absolutely hate and despise the U.S. If we had a school here and 60 students or more were killed, you mentioned 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very almost unanimous response from the U.S. saying we need to go after the people who did this. And again, that's a cycle of violence. You do to me, I'm going to do it to you. And then it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's scary because the only answer to stopping that level of violence is to be as defensive as possible and to be vulnerable. And honestly, you have to leave yourself open to some harm.
I think you're right. If somebody bombed the U.S. and they bombed a school, the outrage, the moral outrage that would be happening.
Yeah.
Yet we could have a domestic shooter go into a school, gun down 20-something kids,
And then you get thoughts and prayers.
We get thoughts and prayers, and you can't take my gun away from me.
Yeah. We're in evil times. And we didn't get to choose to live in these times. We had no ability to change that. Or honestly, we probably would, especially for the sake of the kids. But all we can do is decide how we want to respond to this.
For me personally, what I'm kind of focused on is what can I do in terms of self-care to make me feel less stress. And I'm not trying to be selfish and pretend like none of this is going on. But it doesn't help the people that I have to serve right now, like my family, if I'm a mess. And that's not trying to push aside what's going on. But I do have to detach myself from the political aspect that's happening because it makes me so angry.
You were saying self-care in response. Does any part of you feel any guilt for being like, well, I can turn the news off. I can set my phone down and, block notifications for a little while. And meanwhile, a parent had a student in school in Iran, their life is irrevocably changed.
Right.
That's oftentimes where I really struggle. I think the alternative for me is okay, great. I stop bathing, I stop taking care of myself, and I just my life is ruined for someone,
which is
on the
not going to be good because it's think about your work, what you do.
Right.
You have to be present, and you actually deal with people who are dying. You do have to have self-care so you can show up for people who are within your circle of influence that you can serve and help. I can't do anything for the people of Iran, but you know what I can do? I can serve somebody here who's in need of something and do something about it and make a difference that way. But the funny thing is, I realized yesterday, I have been baking every day for the last few weeks. And I realize it's probably because I feel so stressed out about the news cycle that I'm just trying to engage my brain into something else. Right?
Yeah. You're doing emotional therapy.
And then I take the baked goods and I just start giving them away as a means to comfort people, to love on them, because I think right now that's the only counteraction you can do. I mean, we're together right now and we're about to go play pickleball. So that's nice. Which I will say exercise in general is just good for mental health.
For me personally, I think my fight or flight mode runs a lot, 12 hours a day at work. It's exhausting. I think it's going to take me a long time to process all of this. And I think I'm still in that sort of what's next sort of mode. What the fuck is next?
Right. The things that are out of my control, I have to surrender to that and figure out a way to live right now in this moment, aware of what's happening and surrendering the fact that I don't have control over it, which is something that I think I want to have control over it. The way I would want to have control over it is obsessing about it. We were talking about earlier about moral injury is I feel like if something bad is happening to people, then somehow that means if I want to be in solidarity with them, I also need to be suffering. So sometimes it's if I know that hurt kind of paralyzes me, I shouldn't be doing anything either. I should be suffering somehow. And so that could be in the form of feeling depressed or feeling outraged, which usually it comes out on other people, and just be angry. But that doesn't help or solve anything either.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it can actually do not only self-harm, you can definitely harm others. No easy answer.
Yeah. I think what's that, empathy versus sympathy? Sympathy is oh, that's so bad for you, right? Empathy is I'm going to put myself in your shoes. And empathy is powerful and really important, especially in these times we live. But it doesn't fix anything.
It doesn't fix anything.
I like what you said earlier about you're really pissed off, really angry, really sad, really scared. How do I help the people in my bubble, my circle in this moment? Before I started working in healthcare, I was obsessed with politics. For me to feel better about things, I had to understand them. So I only ever listened to political podcasts, read the news every day. I knew what the whip count was for whatever, law was going to be passed. And everything that was wrong with it, I'd get so angry and, I'd really want these certain things to happen because I thought it would help people more. And then I worked in healthcare and I thought, you know what? I'm giving most of my life, most of the time of a week to caring for an extremely vulnerable population. And I stopped paying attention to politics. I did because I felt like I was living my life trying to make a difference with my hands, with my heart, with my mind in a very tangible way. And that made me feel better. And I think if we all do our best to do that, then that can make a huge difference. I think maybe sort of ending this conversation in more of a hopeful way is that there is something you can do. You can love the person next to you.
Right.
A little better. And try to resist the feelings of powerlessness, because that will debilitate you. And if we have too much of that, they've won.
It's so funny. As you're talking,
because love is stronger than hate.
Yes. As you're talking and I'm processing what you're saying in real time, you're so right about this, because here's the truth. Like when you're talking about how you used to obsess about politics, and like when I was telling you, the truth is that we don't have control over it. And we can't really help those people in Iran right now, right? We can't help the other countries that are getting bombed. The people of the countries the people who are innocent in all of this, right?
Yeah.
But what we can do is to help, is to love on other people, is to love other people in our community, the people in our circle of influence right this minute. Because that is something very much in our control.
Yeah. I'll add, not even just innocent. I mean, how many of us are like really, truly innocent? Like suffering we just wish it wouldn't exist.
Right.
It does have a purpose. That's another conversation for another day. A much more difficult conversation. But I think that's something I had to really look into when I work in a place that's full of suffering and pain and death and dying. And it's like, wait, why do these things exist?
A lot to think about.
Yes. Yeah.
Just having somebody to just process out loud. Even though there's no easy answer, there's no answer, period.
No, not a broad universal answer. Your answer is different than mine, Alice.
Right. But I think what we can do, if you believe in prayer, pray for people who are suffering right now. And if you don't, thoughts and prayers. But I'm not campaigning on that. And using that as an excuse or deflection tactic.
Preach.
There are hundreds of parents right now suffering because they've lost their child. There are a lot of families with little ones who are scared, who are absolutely innocent. And you don't even have to be a little kid to be scared. I can't imagine what those parents are feeling right now. I can't imagine what it must feel like to be constantly in the barrage of bombs coming down. And if you are somebody who believes in the power of prayer, which I am, then, send those prayers to those people who are in real need of them right now.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, subscribe to Truthfully Yours wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love for you to share this with someone who might need to hear it. New episodes weekly on Thursdays. For more about the show and Alice and David, visit truthfullyyours.com.